One of the things that just about everybody agrees in, and I see I'm wearing my little call before you dig one call lapel button. Jeff Weiss has got one on. I bet there's more than the two of them in the room here. Is it's almost an industry regulator mantra that, you know, call before you dig, one call, the importance of it. Next up, we're going to have hear from Bill Kiger, who's the president of the PA One Call. That's in Pennsylvania, where I was showing the slides earlier, and he's going to give a little overview of the one call system in Pennsylvania and how it applies to gathering lines. If I can find his, there it is. Bill. There's a pointer if you want.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl.
Up and down.
As Carl said, I'm Bill Kiger. I have been with Pennsylvania One Call as of December 4th this year, 40 years. I began my process with a directive from my supervisor saying, go to this meeting, don't get involved. I don't know whether that was the fact that I don't pay attention or whether I just jumped in with both feet. Here's another alternative to pipelines. A gas well in every house, business, or industrial facility. This picture was taken in 1920, 5 miles from where I live. I kind of guess I want to talk about non-regulated gathering lines, but at least for the most part, gathering lines in more populated areas, class 2, 3, and 4, are to a degree regulated. And the unfortunate part of it is some of the people who own those lines think that we're still back in 1950 where no expansion in cities, towns, crossroads, and so on are. In addition to that, as you'll see a little later, there's lots of things going on. We talked about the wilderness and what's going on, and they use the excuse that the landowner knows what excavation's going on. There's no risk justified in these rural areas. These are low flow, low pressure, small diameter lines. Back in May, we met with them, and there was a contractor in southwestern Pennsylvania that said, well, on one sewer project, I broke 50 of their lines in one municipality. So they are definitely out there. They are definitely an issue. And the Marcellus folks are really dealing with that.
Uh-oh, technical problems. Blame Jeff Weiss.
This is a video I picked up in a situation where there was 370 miles of pipeline, gathering line, researched or surveyed by a company, and they found 1,800 leaks in that pipeline branch of their gathering system. Out of sight, out of mind is only a figment of our imagination. They continue to be out there. They continue to be issues. I haven't seen any as bad as Bill talked about or showed us on the slides, but there are many similar type situations. But I can tell you in my 40 years, and I wanted to make a comment to Emily and her feelings about the crusade that she's on. I've been on this damage prevention crusade for 40 years, and I can tell you for a fact it has made a dramatic impact on our culture. So don't give up. So again, the one-call system does work. The dirt report that CGA, and I'm sure Bob Kipp tomorrow morning will tell you a little bit more about that, shows steady improvement in damage reduction since the 2005 start of the dirt report. This is a report where utilities and one-call centers input their damages so that we can determine what trends and types of things can resolve and prevent some of these problems from happening. Again, all the things that the gathering line proponents think that they can hang their hat on, I feel are absolutely their perspective and their short-sightedness. We have lots of data that prove that their ideas and their concepts of what the thing's going to cost them to have damage prevention as a part of their regular program are a fraction of the cost that they perceive. The Class 2, Class 3, Class 4 areas, which are more highly populated areas, are involved. Unfortunately, our folks have not chosen to join the system. There are a number, a group that we have that represent those folks. There are 7,700 of these operators in Pennsylvania. Only 120 of them belong to an association, and 45 of those belong to one call on a volunteer basis. So some of them do see the light. Regulation is one thing, but participation and compliance has another whole other matter. The Pipeline Safety Act of 2011 was meant to tighten this up. We want to see this continue to improve and see that done by, in our case, we are moving enforcement, presuming we can get the law passed in the next legislature, to the PUC. It has been with the Labor and Industry group, which has done a job, but not the job we asked them to do more than 17 years ago. We are removing exemptions. We'd like to see that Class 1 gathering line exemption eliminated. As a matter of fact, they had responsibility under the original act from 1974 to file with the Recorder of Deeds in each respective county. They have not done that as yet. We also are working to get the Department of Transportation in Pennsylvania to be a member and for their minor maintenance activity and the municipal minor routine maintenance activity to be included in the program. As time goes on, the 1968 was talked about as far as the original Pipeline Safety Act. Another action at the same basic time was OSHA regulations came into play, and they also identified calling before you dig to make the program even more important to get going. We got that going in 1972, and we were statewide by 1978. In 1979, the excavators came to us and basically asked us to get all underground facility owners to be members and to be notified by the system. We were able to do that, and we currently have almost 3,500 underground facility owners, sharing the cost amongst 3,500 members, not just the group that we had to begin with, which was an original 6. These production gathering and transmission, I'm speaking transmission in respect to the gathering lines because they basically operate as a branch of a tree and basically filter back to a collection point going towards a major transmission line. The excavation workers that are out there putting in these new Marcellus lines, and they are not what we're talking about small lines. They are from 16 to 36 inches in diameter. In some cases, they are dual pipelines paralleling one another and run into these unmarked and unknown lines on a regular basis. Those companies are spending millions of dollars trying to find those lines in advance, but since there's been no cooperation from the gathering line industry, this continues to be an ongoing problem. The original law, as I mentioned, required them to register with the Recorder of Deeds by municipality, and again, they failed to do that as well. Pennsylvania has 384 traditional oil and gas wells in the Commonwealth. I'll show you a picture in just a few minutes that reflect that. There's an estimated 70,000 miles of gathering lines in the Commonwealth. That's what we would call conventional lines, not the large unconventional or Marcellus shale lines, because they are much larger and much higher pressure. There are, in addition to the 384,000, 14,000 shale gas wells, and they are projected to grow to 120,000 by the early 2020s. They are currently averaging 100 miles of this large diameter, very high pressure, and very high is, in our case, 1,300 to 3,000 psi. They typically refer to them as midstream lines, and they are being installed at a rate of 100 miles a month. Typically, the larger companies, the Range Resources, the Chesapeake, and so on, have 2,000 to 3,000 miles of these lines. This is an example of one of their well sites, and we have taken care to work with them throughout our legislative process, so they do support the new legislation. We continue to grow and get those folks involved, as these gathering lines are not just all over Pennsylvania. They are basically homed into 33 of the 67 counties. Currently, there's no notification of these owners, and finding them is a very difficult thing. If one of their lines is hit, typically the regulated gas company has to respond to that, make the site safe, and then go out and try to find the owner of that pipeline. Sometimes that can take hours. In a recent case, 8 hours to find the owner of that leaking gas line, but a major intersection was shut down in Armstrong County. Again, the safety of the crew is paramount to this whole process. And these leaks that I showed you just a few minutes ago, in about a week, we're going to have about 1 million hunters in those areas amongst those gas leaks hunting deer. So we obviously have an issue that we want to see resolved. This is coming at us very quickly, and this is a depiction of the non-Marcellus in blue and the Marcellus shale wells in red. So you can see they are interspersed throughout the gas-generating part of the state, and they continue to grow at about 4,000 wells a year. This is the full picture that you saw earlier. This is 440 wells in Versailles Borough, which is just east of McKeesport, Pennsylvania, back in 1920. That gas process held for about 14 years from the time it started till the time it ended. And most of those wells have, not most of them, all of them are pretty much gone. But the problems that are out there with the caps that have been in place that were long ago reached their life expectancy continue to cause problems to the local fire department on an ongoing basis. We've had homes in our community also blow up as a result of the caps that were put in place many, many years ago, failing and causing the house that was either near it or the well was actually in the house in some cases, blew up in the process. Again, I want to make sure that I repeat that I'm talking about gathering lines, not the transmission lines that we were definitely talking about earlier, and would like to see those lines directly put under scrutiny of state law as well as federal regulation. Class 1 lines are a serious problem, and we have lots of experience with that, and you can see the density that's here. There should be a population density rather than a number of structures and potential population density, because again, across the northern tier of the state, about 1 million people come to that part of the state for about 2 to 3 weeks every fall. Thank you.